1 minute more. Belum banyak yang masuk, Mak.
Bukan masuk. Baik, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang Bapak Ibu dan rekan-rekan sekalian. Terima kasih atas kehadirannya dan online webinar siang kita hari ini yang akan membahas mengenai AI and cybersecurity skill that matter for classroom to career trend, threat, or opportunity. Jika ada pertanyaan dapat disampaikan dalam kolom chat dan nanti akan kita bahas dalam sesi Q&A. Dapatkan door prize berupa voucher OVO senilai Rp100.000 untuk 3 orang terpilih. Workshop ini didukung oleh Aptiknas, Asosiasi Pengusaha Teknologi Informasi dan Komunikasi Nasional, Komunitas Event Cerdas, pembelajaran sejak tahun 2020 dan 521 Talenta, platform studi mandiri dan magang bersertifikat. Di sini sudah ada Bapak Pangki Kristia selaku Sekjen Aptiknas dan founder dari Komunitas Event Cerdas dan 521 Talenta yang akan menjadi moderator dalam siang hari ini. Silakan Pak Pangki.
Baik, terima kasih Mbak Nurma. Selamat siang teman-teman semua. Selamat bertemu kembali di dalam acara kita ya. Pada siang kali ini kita bahas lagi satu tema menarik ya bersama CompTIA. Jadi ini sangat senang sekali Aptiknas bisa berkolaborasi dengan salah satu provider global ya yang memang memiliki konsentrasi khusus untuk mengembangkan talenta digital. Dan ini merupakan sesi webinar kita yang kedua. Ya, jadi teman-teman mungkin kalau ingin melihat sesi yang pertama nanti bisa mengakses ulang di kita punya YouTube ya. Nah, kemudian apa yang kita akan coba bahas pada siang kali ini? Kita akan coba bahas tentang satu hal yang menarik yang lagi happening ya di global dan juga di Indonesia, yaitu terkait dengan AI and cybersecurity skills that matters ya, from classroom to career. Karena ini menarik sekali saat ini karir di bidang AI dan cybersecurity ini lagi booming luar biasa secara global dan juga di Indonesia sudah kita cermati ya dalam 2 tahun ini nih menjadi salah satu skill ataupun menjadi salah satu opportunity ya buat teman-teman terutama yang mencari uh, karir ya di dunia IT ini bisa berkonsentrasi ke sini. Nah, ini sudah hadir bersama dengan kita ada Pak Hairil Samudin ya, Pak Hairil Samudin ini juga menjadi narasumber kita ya di kegiatan kita sebelumnya. Let's greet Pak Hairil first. Ya, Pak Hairil ya. This is Pak Hairil. Pak Hairil, you want to say something first? Silakan Pak Hairil.
Sure. Thank you, Pak Frankie. I think first thing first, terima kasih ya buat komunitas Aptiknasnya. Today merupakan sesi webinar kita yang kedua kalinya together sama dengan Pak James, Dr. James Stanger, merupakan Chief Technology Evangelist dari CompTIA. Mungkin akan diperkenalkan sama Pak Frankie juga. We are more than happy to share more about the career, about the outcomes, about the trend and insights berkenaan dengan AI dan juga cybersecurity, datangnya dari sisi global standards as well as coming from the sisi CompTIA itu sendiri. Jadi sedikit saja dari saya, mungkin saya kembalikan kepada Pak Frankie.
Ya, jadi terima kasih Pak Hairil ini yang mendukung Aptiknas ya. Dan sekarang kita akan menyapa narasumber kita, Dr. James Stanger ya, the Chief Technology Evangelist of CompTIA. So this is our speaker, Mr. James. James, you want to short introduction about yourself?
You bet. Hi, everyone. I'm James Stanger. Yeah. It's great to be here. Thank you, Frankie. It's greetings from Melbourne, Australia. That's where I am right now. Normally, I live in the Seattle area in the United States. So it's great to be here. Can't wait to talk to you about AI and cybersecurity.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you, Mr. James. So I think the one thing, yeah, uh, your position, Chief Technology Evangelist. Yeah.
Yeah.
Evangelist is like, looks like the God. You know
Yeah, like
everything
a
about
religious thing. Yeah. Well,
Okay.
tech is one of my religions, that's for sure. I love tech. So, but my job, I'm lucky enough to go around the world and talk to industry leaders. And I ask them questions about, what are their problems and how to solve them? How do we implement technology in the best possible way? So I'm lucky to travel the world, and then I can share wisdom, their wisdom with people. So if I ever sound smart, it's because I talk to really smart people.
That's a good thing. Yeah, so we will hear from you the detail more about the AI and cybersecurity skill that
Sounds good.
matters from classroom to career, the trend, the threat, and or the opportunity. I think I will pass the screen to you, James.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to be here again, Frankie. Thank you very much. I'm going to share my screen, so hopefully you get to see it. Let me know if you can see it or when you can see it.
Okay, we can see that.
You can see it. Fantastic. I want to talk to you about, cybersecurity skills that matter, because when Hyril and I were talking, we felt it was really important to emphasize hands-on skills and why that's so important in the classroom, where you play with technology, and then into the workforce, why that's so important. And also to share some trends and talk about AI and cybersecurity. So we're going to talk about the promise of AI to cybersecurity professionals. And again, I'm going to share insights from people on literally every continent. Well, maybe not literally every continent. I've never been able to visit anyone on Antarctica, but I've been on every other continent. So I guess that counts. And critical questions that you can ask yourself. What can you do to make yourself so that you have a set of skills that compels a hiring manager to hire you? But also to discuss, if you are a hiring manager yourself, to discover the challenges that people are sharing around the world, because they're shared challenges in every domain. When I say domain, in every industry area, whether you're a tech company in the tech sector, or if you're a company in the mining sector or finance, healthcare, government, no matter what sector. I'm going to talk today about changes in cybersecurity paradigms, and then essential skills that seem to be the most in need, and how to get them. So for those of you who don't know who CompTIA is, we're a training organization. We teach people various skills, from cybersecurity to infrastructure to AI to data analytics. We offer training and certifications. I'm James Stanger. I'm the Chief Technology Evangelist. I've been a working cybersecurity professional and IT professional for many years now, for more years than I care to think. I've been lucky enough to be a company president. So both from a technical perspective, but also a business perspective, I'd like to talk to you today about, what does it mean to use AI? And so I have some questions for you. The first question is, are you ready to use AI in the most positive way possible? Are you ready to deploy agents? Are you ready to create an AI twin of yourself? The reason I ask this, recently I was in at a conference called RSA San Francisco. I was asked to speak there. RSA San Francisco is one of the largest cybersecurity conventions in the world. And in that convention, we were challenged to create a duplicate of yourself using AI. Right? What does your AI twin look like? Can you use agents? Can you create an AI twin of yourself? Now, that's a challenge. That's a tall order, but it's something that you should be thinking about. And if you were to do that, to create your own AI twin, what skills would you give it? Are you ready to use AI platforms for critical cybersecurity tasks? And are you ready to experience the unexpected in every area? And when I say the unexpected, I mean when it comes time to actually put this to work, to put AI to work in cybersecurity, there are going to be various challenges. Well, do you understand the layers of AI, the hardware layers, the software layers, the data layer, the business layer, the interpersonal layer that are necessary to create an AI twin of yourself? And what kind of skills do you need to get educated to use these things? Those are the questions I have for you. Hopefully, over the next 35 or so minutes, this presentation will kind of give you an idea about what you're going to be doing and what you can do. Because I'd like to shed some light on some of the opportunities that you have. So first of all, here's a picture, or I should say some pictures of industry leaders from around the world on literally every continent. On the top right, those are industry leaders I met in Australia. Those are people, one of the women in there, the top top left-hand picture. She has done work for McDonald's and for various organizations. But you're looking at industry leaders from the United States, from Singapore, and from South America. And they all have the same message. They are looking for cybersecurity workers to do things quickly. Speedy solutions, speed to relevance, and speed to value. They don't necessarily want you to use AI. They want you to do things quickly. And the answer to that is AI. I just want to be very clear about that, because it's a really big deal to be thinking, well, we don't just use AI for the sake of AI. We're using it and putting it to work to do one of two things or both things, to create efficiencies or to do what is called shift left. Efficiencies, folks, by that I mean to speed up tasks. How can you use AI to speed up a task? Okay, it's that simple. AI is very good right now at brute force kind of efficiency. When I say brute force, repetitive skills. It's always going to do things just like any, even before AI, any computer's always been good at efficiently doing repetitive tasks. But it's also good at shift left. And that means eliminating a process and providing a new workflow. And this is a big deal. I can't emphasize this enough. The smart companies that I see are not treating 2026 as the year to do AI. They're talking about it as a way to improve workflows and study existing processes so that they can then implement AI in a good way. So I'll explain that in a minute, but it really has to do with concepts such as using agents, but also disintermediation. That's a fancy word for saying, are there processes somewhere in the middle? Each of our steps, if there's a step, a workflow, are there things that we can do somewhere in the middle that can be eliminated? And that's called disintermediation. Some people talk about that in terms of unemployment. I talk about it in terms of processes that can be made more efficient. So while I was in San Francisco, this is the flora that was going on, the chaos that was going on at RSA San Francisco, I discussed challenges with industry leaders from around the world. And they said, look, what we're facing are asymmetric situations. And I said, what do you mean by asymmetric situations? And they said, basically situations where using AI, attackers are able to more quickly map out a network and create new attacks that are very fast, very quick. We're experiencing exponential technologies, meaning technologies that are much more efficient and faster than ever before. We're seeing the convergence of not only IT technologies, but operational technology systems. And I'm talking about critical infrastructure systems that bring us our electricity, or bring us oil or gas in pipelines, that bring us the water in our faucets. So I'm talking about the physical systems. They need to be protected. We have many morphing attack surfaces and problem surfaces and a lot of toxic combinations. Now take a look at this picture. This is the Golden Gate Bridge in the United States. And while I was there, I noticed that there is a fort underneath it. It's an old 19th century fort called Fort Point. And while I was there, I realized I had to get back to the conference. So I called up a ride, and I called up a Waymo. So it was the first, one of the first times I'd ever taken a ride in a Waymo. The reason I bring it up is I couldn't help but think that here I was using 20th century technology to get to a 19th century technology place, and then using 21st century driverless AI tools. This is the world, folks, that we're going to be living in. It's a world where we are using going to do old-fashioned things using new-fashioned technologies. The cybersecurity implications of this, folks, are significant. Here's a couple of images I took in Hawaii fairly recently of a robotic dog that was used by the military. They made it look all cute, but this dog is used for specific purposes with crowd control and things like that, and also reconnaissance. What we're seeing, folks, from a cybersecurity perspective is the need to clean up the act of organizations. When I say clean up the act, in other words, as cybersecurity workers, our job is not just to discover attacks in progress. Yes, that's part of it. Our job is, yes, to do risk analysis. It's to identify the toxic combinations that are going on inside an organization. And this is more than just vulnerability analysis or more than just pen testing or security analytics. It's basically the hunt for where one technology connects improperly with another. Whenever one technology connects with another, it creates kind of this in-between place. That's what those little lightning bolts are meant to show. So whenever, for example, to use a simple example, a web server and a SQL server connect, that's where SQL injection could occur if you have an improper connection. You could have the human element with an AI-enabled workflow. And you could end up, if you don't do that right, you can end up for an opportunity for business email compromise, for phishing attacks. Increasingly, we rely on APIs, application programming interfaces, for the clients and the endpoints. Well, those connections are often fraught with problems. Encryption is not properly used. Authentication is not properly put in place. Access control is weak with APIs. Agents and poor processes, technology and immature governments. These represent toxic combinations that are in many organizations, not just tech companies, but governments and any sector you can think of when it comes to an industry, whether it be in mining, healthcare, finance. You get the idea. It has to do with the use of immature processes and poor communication. These are root cause problems that as cybersecurity professionals, it's your job to clean up. Now, the key considerations that I'm hearing about worldwide are this. We can't continue increasing cost and complexity from a cybersecurity perspective. One of the reasons is because AI is taking all the money. I'm kidding, but we as cybersecurity professionals have to become more efficient. We also have to find ways to extract the signal from the data much more quickly. Now, we have many fantastic tools out there, Splunk, for example, and Security Onion and things like that that have been around a long time. But we also need to identify workflow efficiencies to make our pen testing more efficient, to make our security analytics more efficient. I've heard people who should know better say, well, with AI, we don't need to do security analytics anymore. I heard somebody say that 3 years ago in the European federal government, saying in 2 years, we won't need security analysts. Well, that was 3 years ago, and there's more demand now for security analysts than there was then. Okay, trust me, we still need security analysts. It's silly. But what we do need are security analysts that can curate data more efficiently. If you were to do an A/B test of what security analytics was in 2023, it would look quite different than what it looks like now. Why? Well, the advent of AI has changed elements of that job role, but it still is centering on the need to curate data. And we also need the ability to make authoritative decisions in our incident response. These are key considerations that I hear from around the world. Now, there are 5 toxic combination patterns that I've heard. And I've heard of these from various people, including this person, Stefan Descu. He works for a company called Thales in France. If you've ever heard of BAE Systems, or BAE Systems is a British company. Boeing is an American company. Airbus, European. Thales is a French company in aerospace. He's one of many who've talked to me about 5 toxic combinations that exist in the world when it comes to cybersecurity. First of all, using old processes and old ideas when facing new realities. The second is substitution. This is where you come in using AI or a consultant, and you think that you are getting rid of an old process, you're making things more efficient, and you're substituting it with a worse process than you started with. So that's a problem. Failing to educate people, right, to meet new realities. Education is so important. Deploying tech improperly, where you incur two problems. One, shadow IT or shadow AI, which is basically where increasingly we're seeing organizations that are sourcing their technology, allowing departments source their technology from anywhere. In other words, they don't go to their IT department first. They just they have a budget, they go up to the cloud and they grab some AI, they grab some tools, and they don't tell they don't tell their cybersecurity team about it. That's called shadow IT. It's a problem because it's technology that's hanging on in the shadows. Also, we have something called technical debt. And this is basically where organizations, as they implement a piece of code, or as they implement a solution, an AI solution, or a CRM solution, or some piece of technology, they skip steps along the way. Everybody does it. Let's face it, it happens a lot. The problem becomes if we don't address the problem and solve it, you end up with a debt. And it's kind of like if you don't pay the debt back on your house or your car, you lose your house or your car. You could argue that many of the ransomware attacks that happen are the result of accrued technical debt. And that ransomware attack is basically a form of repossession from the, but instead of being repossessed, the company being repossessed by a bank, it's being possessed by ransomware. And then dropping AI into bad situations. This is where you end up with agent sprawl and various cascading issues where, look, we started with an agent and then it started doing work, and kind of like a hacker, it goes around causing problems throughout the organization. We have access control issues where we're not integrating issues. So we have these issues where we have business problems, organizational problems, integration problems, and then legacy problems, and the lack of visibility, the inability for cybersecurity teams to look in underneath the hood of an organization's business to see exactly what's going on. These are common issues. We need to secure agents themselves, and then we need to secure agents from, we need to secure agents themselves, but we also need to secure the organizations from rogue agents, okay? Now, when it comes to AI and cybersecurity, some of the lessons that we're learning, one of the foundational skills is to enforce identity access management and teach people that critical skill. So I've been talking about agents and I've been talking about processes and technical debt. Well, how do we get out of some of these things? Well, first of all, think about identity access management. Increasingly, I've noticed over the last 3 to 5 years, over the last 2 to 3 years, really it becomes one of those foundational skills that's very important. We also need people who understand risk management, who can implement GRC, and basically can take and validate input and can implement the human in the loop correctly, but to put together guardrails. We need workers who can secure the underlying infrastructure that's providing these services. We need more workers who can understand how to automate, but also to secure infrastructure as code. A lot of people will say, well, wait a minute, James, infrastructure as code is great. You just state the code and you can implement things. You can launch 1,000 servers. You can do tons of automation. Yeah, but here's the problem. You can also make 1,000 mistakes with one line of code. That is the underlying problem. Just late last year, AWS experienced that problem. It probably wasn't a cybersecurity issue. It was more of a configuration problem. But it still is very similar to the fact that we need to secure our underlying infrastructure, to understand how to sandbox runtime environments, to secure APIs and protect data, and then continuous monitoring. These become essential to success moving forward. And it really has to do with paradigm changes. Over the decades, it's been interesting to see people change their paradigms. For example, from the defender's dilemma to the attacker's dilemma. The defender's dilemma is the old story of, well, all it takes is one bad link and the whole company is going to get hit by ransomware. That's the defender's dilemma. That's thinking, okay, if my defense isn't going to work right, then somebody's going to get me. I don't think that's very useful. I think that's kind of cliche as well. I think it's more important to think in terms of the attacker's dilemma. Now think about the thousands, or maybe just hundreds if you're really good, of steps that an attacker has to put in place. Think of the chain that has to be put in place for an AI attacker or for a conventional attacker to put in place when they attack a company successfully. If you can interrupt that chain, then you've succeeded as a defender. See, now if you think about how the attacker is working, and if you can put your AI systems into a situation where they can anticipate and then eliminate certain steps or certain chains, certain links along that chain, now you've got a really cool situation. I think that's an important change in how we think. That's what I mean by paradigm shift. Think about the attacker's dilemma. It's much more productive. Cybersecurity from the ground up is great if you can do it. Most companies can't. They need to iterate cybersecurity. That means this. Iteration means you're on a journey and you may not have gotten it right today, but you'll work to get it right tomorrow, and you constantly improve. Too many organizations have treated IT as a tactical resource. Well, we'll set our business strategy and then our technologists will inform them maybe if they need to know about it. No. You bring technologists and your IT workers into the strategy right away. That's strategic IT. That's a new and better way. We used to do signature-based detection only, antivirus kind of signatures. Well, now the best tools using AI use fuzzy logic. They do heuristic detection. It's kind of like a parent. If you have had kids or been around kids or whatever, you know what bad behavior looks like. You may not be able to name it, but you know what bad behavior is. It's kind of like that with AI. We used to focus on the perimeter, inside, outside. If you were inside the firewall, you were safe. Yeah, right. Now we focus on identity as the perimeter, or we do zero trust. We used to do isolated decision-making, and now we have augmented decision-making. And that augmentation is not just with AI. That's augmented decision-making with all areas of the company. We need a layered security model that involves business layers as well as the 7 layers of the OSIRM. And finally, we've moved from the good to go model. Well, James and Hyril logged in this morning at 9 a.m. and their session is good. Their login is good for another 8 hours until they go home for the evening. That's not a very good thing, because who's to say that my computer didn't get hacked the minute I logged in? So we've moved from the good to go model to kind of, well, James's computer and identity is okay, contingent upon good behavior. If his computer starts acting funny, then we can shut it down. Kind of a zero trust kind of thing. So we've made major changes in our paradigms. When it comes to AI, we're noticing that people are really making major changes in using AI to do better monitoring of network traffic. Recently, I was at a US government event, and it was talking about the next skills that are important for the next 2 to 5 years to support the Department of War, the Department of Defense. And one of the persons stood up and said something that most people rolled their eyes on. He said the same thing. He said, oh, well, security analytics is unimportant. It's a silly thing to say. What is important to say is AI is helping security analysts monitor network traffic better. It's helping model defense tests. So now, in the same way that years ago, they were able to model how automobiles will work using AI, they could how automobiles will work in a crash test. It's the same sort of thing. Whenever there's a crash or a breach, how can we predict and model future attacks? How can we automate incident response and analyze user behavior? These are the key areas where efficiency and optimization, or shift left, are happening. Remember earlier when I mentioned shift left and making things more efficient? These are the key areas all right here. And this is a resource that we created in late 2025, so it's not that old. So take a look at that. I'll be sharing this slide deck, by the way. When it comes to incident response, we're seeing 2 faces of it now. Chronic incident response and also acute incident response. Acute incident response is the typical 3 a.m., oh my gosh, we got hacked, what do we do? But there's also the idea of the chronic incident, meaning how can we realize that there are micro incidents, little cybersecurity microaggressions that have happened, and how do we manage that? So it's really thinking about incident response before the incident. So you're taking vulnerability management to a next level. That's a major important skill, and I even wrote an article about that. And you can, when I share the slides with you, you can check that out. Stefan told me another thing. He said the same, and he's a CISO, and I've talked to CISOs around the world. These are the 3 areas that are the most important for a cybersecurity worker to have. You'd think that it would be, okay, using Wireshark or using AI to do something, or maybe using Splunk or pen testing or whatever. It's these 3 areas. And the question becomes, how do we give that curiosity, that agility to various areas of the enterprise, not just as a cybersecurity worker, but how do we help the help desk? How do we help network engineers? As a security engineers, how do we move beyond mere raw scoring of, well, here's what a threat might be, and getting into true prediction of risk? As a security analyst, how can we be more efficient? As a pen tester, how can we do things so that we're not spending too much time? And here's the whole idea of this whole from the classroom to the workforce. The answer is, how do you get to be truly creative and agile in solving some of these problems I mentioned 10 minutes ago? And how do you get some of those skills that I mentioned 5 minutes ago? Well, the answer is in the classroom, through hands-on experience. That's why we emphasize at CompTIA, and why I'm seeing all of the people that I work with every day. I work with our competitors every day, actually. I'm president of an organization where we cooperate with certification bodies from ISC2, ISACA. I also work with Jay over the EC Council. And we've all identified that the way that people can be truly useful in using AI and cybersecurity is first hands-on experience. That's why we focus on our labs, for example, that we offer labs. And it's not just, hey, look, here's how we were able to find 3 critical severity incidents in 19,000, records or more. It's really, here's how we were able to create an agile thinking worker who can use cybersecurity. So many people, folks, have talked about the human in the loop, right? The human in the loop, or on the loop, or under the loop. Now think about this. There are really important ways in which the human can check AI, in other words, can make sure AI is right, but also we can also use AI to check the human, to make sure the human's doing things right. So it's the whole idea, folks, that you need to figure out as a cybersecurity worker, where can you use AI in the most useful way to make organizations truly prepare for themselves, to create guardrails, to move from traditional packet-based kind of detection like what you're seeing here. This is where recently I did a pen test and I showed that I could do some data egress. And you can move from there to using, say, ChatGPT, where I take that same packet capture and look, it was able to analyze the packet capture and find usernames and passwords. But that's not good enough. We're really looking now for agents who can go in and do the same sorts of things, who can identify attacks, and who can work independently along with you. So the types of skills that we need for that, folks, are, I think, stated right here. Fairly recently, Cisco let 4,000 workers go, right? And notice what they did. If you can take a look at this article, it said that Cisco will provide impacted workers who have been let go with various benefits, including training on AI, security, and networking. So the next time you hear people say, well, AI is replacing networking and security jobs, it can, but unless Cisco has a really sick sense of humor, why would they let go security and networking people and then say, oh, go get lessons in courses in AI and networking? Do you see what I'm trying to say? There is a future for you in these things. There's a future for people who know how to do AI-enabled threat monitoring. You're seeing a lab example of how an organization can use cybersecurity threat intelligence and AI in an efficient way to go through terabytes of information in a matter of seconds. That information that would take a human being way too long. We have ways of figuring out how to stop things such as prompt injections. That's a toxic combination where you have AI that has not been properly put together and properly secured so that you can talk the AI into actually revealing passwords. So there are things that we can do and skills that we can have. Now, there are various ways that we can do this. I call it the cybersecurity AI trifecta. There are 3 ways you can do it. 1, you need to get workers that can protect AI itself. Second, you need to make the existing cybersecurity operations that you have more efficient. In other words, red teaming and blue teaming. How can we fix security analytics and fix pen testing to not be fully automated, but to use AI to its full potential? And then governance. Governance is something that takes time. Well, AI moves too fast for traditional governance. How can we speed up governance? Not causing problems, not creating more technical debt, but to speed up governance. Those are the three challenges, right? Each of these concerns is top of mind to industry professionals worldwide. And this need has taken shape more quickly than any other IT offering that we've seen. That's why we have SEC AI Plus, for example. And this has to do with the need for systems thinkers. You'll hear this a lot, the ability for workers to basically, how should I put this? Think in terms of architectures, not just in terms of hacks, but get to think in terms of architectures and also business analytics and business needs. Now, if you want to get more granular than this, yes, we need to manage and secure our AI systems. We need to establish proper foundations to use containers and orchestration better. I already mentioned identity access management, but we need to think in terms of governance, but also post-quantum cryptography issues are coming down the pike. We need to think about what it means to migrate to new technologies that way to improve our symmetric key encryption security. And then observability, which is more than just visibility. Visibility is looking at a SIM screen. That's fine. Security identification, event management tool. That's fine. But observability is where you are really getting into how systems work together. And that observability is very important to think about. We need to focus on unique combinations, folks. And by unique combinations, compliance with regulations. It's an increasingly regulated world when it comes to cybersecurity. So all of these areas are things that we hit in CompTIA for our infrastructure, cybersecurity, and our data analytics pathways. They are basically tools that they are basically courses that allow us to focus on all of these areas of cybersecurity and more, to do things, to do more with less, and to get a compelling skill set that really allows you to use AI in the right way. So if there's nothing else that you take away from this, it's the importance of applied learning. And when I say applied learning, applying AI to a cybersecurity need, to basically get hands-on work whenever you can. If you hear about a concept or a practice, get stuck in on a lab. That's why we offer virtual labs, for example. But hands-on practical training, that is what's going to take your classroom experience and enable you to translate that into real-life experience very quickly. It will allow you, as a worker, to bring instant value as a cybersecurity worker. And that's what today's hiring managers are looking for. So let's see, I think I'm over time, or just right around time. But if anybody has any questions or comments, I'd be happy to answer them now. Or if I can't answer them, I'll find someone who can. I'm lucky enough to talk to a lot of folks here. So here's a question from, let's see. Well, there's one question I'm afraid I don't know. It's about automating incident response, but I don't know the language. I'm sorry. But here, let me go up to a couple of these questions. Frankie, does that make sense?
James, James, I think we can see the first from Danny first. I think in English, right? Excuse me, sir. But
Danny?
in your opinion, Danny.
Okay, let's see.
Yeah.
Is AI in the field of cybersecurity ultimately a trend, a threat, or an opportunity? And what is the most important step that students, educators, and industry professionals should take together at this time? First of all, hands-on learning. AI is going to help only if you use it in situations. So that's the first step. Now, I see it as definitely it's more than a trend. AI is a tool that is basically going to help redefine what you do as a security analyst and as a pen tester. It's not going to replace it. I would argue that, for example, I remember 10 years ago, maybe it was 15, but about 10 years ago, I was talking to somebody, a good professor, and he said, well, everything's moving to the cloud. And I said, well, a lot of things are, not everything. But he said, well, as things move to the cloud providers, AWS, Azure, they have automated pen testing tools that go around fixing that. So that means we don't need pen testers anymore. I heard that 10, 15 years ago. That's not the case. And it's the same way with this. I see that it is a threat to somebody who does not improve their skill sets. If you do pen testing and it's very repetitive, if you've found a way into systems that's just kind of the one way and it always seems to work, then I would argue that you are threatened by AI because it'll pick that up and do it faster than you. But if you're always kind of going, well, it's always so unique. And if you're using an agent to work with you, and if you're starting to use agents, or if you're starting to use AI in the classroom to help you do your work, then I don't see how it's a threat to you in your careers. Now, AI is definitely a threat out in the world because attackers have embraced it wholeheartedly. Recently, I was talking to a CIO, a CISO. He is over a company of about 6 different companies. So he works in a holding company, and 6 different companies were under him. One company got attacked by a phishing attack, and guess what? That phishing attack it went from one company to the next. And the reason why it spread so quickly is they could tell through the sheer variety of the attacks that it wasn't just one person doing the attack or one group or even 2 or 3 human beings. It was many AI systems working together, and the sheer velocity, the sheer variety, the sheer volume of the attacks was that AI is doing it. So yes, in that way, it's definitely be a threat. But the important step that students and educators and pros can take at this time is to use AI practically and to use it in a very directed sort of way. There's another question.
Yes, yeah. Go ahead.
There's another question from Furman, or there's somebody just made a comment. So let me answer Furman's. Do I see AI in cybersecurity for critical sectors like healthcare as more of a defensive opportunity or a new attack surface? Well, that's the problem. AI is a dual purpose thing. Yes, it is something that needs to be defended. So it's an attack thing, but it's also something that can be used by your company to do better vulnerability management. So it's a strange thing. It has to be protected. And so it's yet another part of the technology stack that needs to be protected. Your MCP server, your the agent APIs and the agent application development kits, all of those things, they have to be protected. But the adversaries are leveraging AI. They're doing it in a really good, I shouldn't say good, but a very interesting way. Public institutions have a particular problem because they can't just throw more money at the solution, and they can't stop offering the services that people expect. The first thing that would help is better education of your workers. I've been lucky enough to talk to state and local workers, not only in the United States, but also federal workers from Singapore to Thailand to workers in Kuala Lumpur and Malaysia, but also United States. And they all in the government are realizing that cross-skilling is very important. And by cross-skilling, teaching people AI essentials, how to create good prompts, right? And then teaching that to pen testers or teaching that to security analysts, but also teaching people how to, security analysts, for example, about the elements of AI. So cybersecurity workers increasingly need to be given an AI essentials kind of course that tells them, well, look, here's what an LLM is, and here's how it usually gets attacked, and here's what an MCP server is. An MCP server is really cool. It allows an AI system to get additional computing and an additional wisdom, but it can be attacked. So how do we protect the API calls and things like that? So those are the important things to think about. So public institutions, education, that's the number one thing. And it's the cheapest way to do it. And it's not just the cheapest way to do it, it's the most efficient way to do it. Yusak is saying, Cisco offered impacted employees access to courses and certs. How can the company ensure that this short-term educational support turns into long-term career resilience? That's a good question. I think they did offer prorated bonuses. That's a really good point. They actually did that too. But education is the #1 way that you can reskill, that you can get the current skills. That today is the really key thing. Think about it this way. Back in 1900, there were more blacksmiths than there were mechanics, right? By 1930, there were more mechanics than blacksmiths. Over 30 years, it took that transition about that long. Even in the 20s, there were still horses running around cities, right? What we're seeing now is things aren't taking 30 years to change, it's 30 months. Recently, I was talking to a CISO of an organization called B1. They about $1.5 billion organization in the pharmaceutical industry. And he said every 3 weeks, his cloud workers, every 3 weeks, are noticing new technologies that are available. Brand new AI-enabled tools, but also brand new cybersecurity tools that they'd never really seen before. 3 weeks. So it's not that technology is changing every 30 years, every 30 months, or even every 18 months. We're way beyond what is it? What's it called? I'll think of it in a minute. Every 3 weeks, it's quite changed. So yes, you can give people money, but really you need to focus on upskilling. That's the key. Can AI perform web pen testing? Yes, it can do a good job. There are some good AI platforms out there. For example, using, I know Splunk does it, Fortinet. They have AI modules that can do pretty good web pen testing. But right now, it's being used not as a replacement for the pen tester, but as a helper. Because one of the things that's been really a problem for pen testing, the whole industry of pen testing, is there's one, not enough workers, but two, the workers can only skip the surface. They don't have the time to get a little deeper. See, now with AI, they have workers that they can scale and work for them. Those workers are agents. And it actually is making the pen tester more valuable, the human not less valuable, because instead of just skipping along the surface like many do, they can then get deeper into it. So that's a great question, Aji. Thank you. That's a very good question about the pen test results being declared valid. Think about it this way. I'll draw an analogy. I use personally a certified public accountant to do my taxes. Because when I did my own taxes, I think I got audited twice by the federal government, and I didn't want that anymore. I'm lousy at doing my taxes, right? The reason I told you that story is now I have a CPA do it. Why? Well, because if there's some sort of, I've never been audited since, and I know I have somebody who has my back. Pen test results right now can only be declared valid if there's a valid process behind it. So who determines if that's a valid process? It's not always the human in the loop. It's not always the human that does that. I've seen instances where AI can actually say, well, human, you wanted to override what I'm doing, but I'm not sure I can allow that. So, who declares it valid? And it's not necessarily the human, it's not necessarily AI, it's the process that's been validated. And this is where, when I said earlier that 2026 for smart companies is where they're adjusting their workflows and trying to figure out how to really get things done, one of those things is pen testing. They really need to investigate how it's done. And so the process itself becomes more important than even the people, in a sense. It becomes more important than the AI. And so it's an interesting kind of triangle there. So thanks for asking that question, Ajay. That's a really good one.
So is there anyone to direct question to James? You can open your mic and ask directly to James. Ada yang mau tanya langsung ke James? Silakan kalau ada yang mau tanya langsung.
Feel free to put that into the text window, or if you can come off mute and I can talk to you that way too.
Yeah. So I think, James, one of the things that you said is about the upskilling, in terms of, So how the CompTIA can help on this part?
When it comes to upskilling, one of the first things is we've identified so many ways in which people can upskill themselves. So for example, we feel when it comes to cybersecurity that you enter where it makes sense to enter. And in other words, there's some people who are just doing career changing. And so they need to figure out, okay, look, I'm not at the level, James, where I can create an agent to do pen testing. I barely know what pen testing is. So maybe you need to start at Security Plus. Or maybe you need to start at A+, because A+ doesn't just teach you how to be a help desk professional. It teaches you how all of the computers work. Computers like your mobile phone or your smartwatch or your desktop computer. It teaches endpoints. And by endpoints, I mean servers and all the computers. And then Network Plus teaches how they all talk to each other. So you need to start where it makes sense. If you're already a security analyst, if you're already somebody and you're like, well, you know what, I really need to get into the essentials of AI. Look, we have something called AI Essentials that will do a great job pointing out how you can work with better prompting and things. But we also have a course called Sec AI Plus. And Sec AI Plus is basically a course that teaches you three things. One, how to secure AI itself. Remember, I was talking about all those toxic combinations that affect not only AI, but various, almost any technology. Well, Sec AI Plus identifies where some of the key areas where AI gets attacked and how to solve that problem. That's cool. That's the first part. Second, Sec AI Plus shows how you can take pen testing and security analytics activities, specific ones, and make them more efficient. For example, cybersecurity threat intelligence and how to read that better. So that Sec AI Plus does a great job with that. Another thing that you might want to think about is a course in here. I'm not sure I have it listed. Oh, I do. Auto Ops Plus. You could say, well, James, Auto Ops Plus isn't a security cert, but just, go with me on this. Auto Ops Plus teaches kind of the DevSecOps kind of approach. It teaches how you can use infrastructure as code. It teaches how you can automate using orchestration, and how you can automate and orchestrate, how you can use Kubernetes and containers and things like that. And then what it does, it teaches you how you can set up a proper foundation so that you don't have as much technical debt, a proper foundation for your cloud, for your data center, for your on-premise. That's pretty cool. So there are various courses that we have out there, both from a beginner perspective, but also from an advanced perspective that can teach that there. That can teach that. Is that what you were asking, Frankie? The specific ways to get a hold of this stuff, to learn about this stuff?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think that's one of the things. Yeah, but if you notice, also I think I believe also in another part of the world, right? There are some certification outside CompTIA. They also specific on the let's say the hacker, on the hacker side, more on the specific. But the combination of the AI and the cybersecurity, I think we only will find it on the CompTIA, right?
That's right. It's fairly unique what we've done with Sec AI Plus. Is I call it an industry snapshot. It's taken a snapshot that's what's happening this year when it comes to the combination of AI and the cybersecurity profession. So it's been interesting to see how traditional cybersecurity tasks are being changed a bit. I'm not really saying that there are new cybersecurity job roles out there, but those existing job roles are being messed with. This individual skills in there. When I say messed with, they're being altered a bit. And Sec AI Plus does a very good job of outlining exactly what's changing. I use the example of cybersecurity threat intelligence. Another example is along the lines of pen testing. The discovery process in pen testing. Like if somebody wants to do a pen test of a computer that I have, well, usually you get out your trusty copy of Nmap. And you might do some whois lookups. There are various things that you can do. It's the whole reconnaissance step. Well, how can AI speed that up? And how can AI do that in a much faster way and do that at the same time as you are doing actual work trying to get into a system? Because the traditional hacker pathways, the traditional hacker life cycle, like the MITRE ATT&CK model, that's what it's called, the MITRE ATT&CK model, or the old cybersecurity the Lockheed cybersecurity kill chain, which I still think is quite useful. Those models will basically say, well, you do recovery, you do discovery, and then you weaponize, and then you do initial penetration. You get you establish a foothold, you do lateral movement, actions on objectives, all those things, right? Well, what's cool with AI as a pen tester is you can have, AI while AI is doing the discovery, and then it gives you some information about a weakness. Then you could set up AI to say, okay, I need you to weaponize this particular weakness. They seem to be using an old version of Linux, so we'll go after that. And then you can have, then you could do rediscovery and say, well, is that just a honeypot or not? So there are all sorts of ways that you can use AI to add more nuance and more subtleties and do that much faster to your pen testing, for example. So that's I think a really important approach, a really important thing to think about. And so and here's the thing, so many people still don't even know what pen testing quite is. So it's like, you know what, if you were to take Pen Test Plus, for example, and Sec AI Plus, and combine that with a bit of AI prompting essentials, holy cow, you now have a skill set that I won't say it's future proof, but it's going to set you up for better opportunities in the future. And it'll get you on that learning path that you need.
Yeah, that's also interesting, James, because sometimes the report, right, from the pen tester, right? But
Yeah.
if you notice also, there are some platform they use. There always some AI capabilities inside now, but is there they know exactly what happened, how to solve it in details. That's why sometimes when I got the pen tester report, I will ask again to the person directly. Can you
Yes.
explain more detail?
Sure. Well, and that's the interesting thing about AI. For example, the first time I got hired on as a technical role was on a pen testing team, and they specifically said, James, look, we like how you break into stuff, but we also see that you know how to write, and none of us wants to write the report because most of the times we geek out too much and give too much information, and you seem to have an understanding of, well, who's going to read this or who should read this. And AI doesn't do a great job with that yet, but it's learning, and it is doing a pretty good job. It's starting to show kind of an awareness for audience, and I think that's important to think about. And that's another way that AI can be used in pen testing, not to write the report. That would be, I think, disastrous, but to kind of offer guardrails and say, look, I thought this was for an exec audience, and exec audience doesn't care about what ports you grabbed or what tool you use. What they care about is, well, how much risk is there? How much is this going to cost me, and how do I fix it? And do I really need to spend that kind of money? And how much money is it? AI can provide good guardrails for that. And I think that's really important to think about, because too many times a pen test gets ignored because it went into too much detail or sometimes not enough. It just didn't hit the audience. I've seen that time and time again. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, Pak
Yeah.
Frankie, I think a lot of
Yeah.
discussion. Happy. Sorry, I've jumped in. Just a quick one.
Yeah. Sure.
Can I have like a 5 minutes to just to give some summarize about CompTIA program that probably will help the job role, the enterprise,
Yeah,
the
sure.
community. If
Yeah.
possible, I will just do some sharing for 5 minutes according to what I have here. To align to what James have shared and what probably in demanded in Indonesia. Is it possible, Pak Frankie? Just a quick one.
Sure.
So
Go
I
ahead.
think I try to share my slides.
Okay, let me
James,
stop sharing here, and then you can. There you go.
just a quick one to relate. Okay, yeah, this is. So I think everyone able to see my slides. Supposedly, yeah, Pak Frankie. Okay, yeah.
Okay. Sudah okay. Yeah.
Okay, just maybe that some in relation to what James have shared, dan juga kita terlihat ya questions ataupun soalan-soal dari pihak yang datang buat sesi webinar hari ini, iaitu ya, beberapa sisi ya, dari sesi foundationnya, basicnya untuk learn career in IT, cybersecurity dan juga AI. Dan untuk pertengahnya mereka yang di sisi karier boleh melihatkan beberapa domain yang harusnya dipertingkatkan skillsnya seperti advanced role, project management, business and so on. Jadi buat sisi digital fluency itu punyanya program seperti essential, buat core skillsnya, buat intermediate-nya, program sertifikasi, dan terakhir itu khusus buat program seperti security AI yang memberi nilai tambah on top of the all skills available di sisi literature dan juga di sisi infrastructure dan cybersecurity. Jadi secara keseluruhannya mungkin kalau kalian sudah bisa lihat atau pertama kali melihat kan punya dua sisi ya, kompetisi certificate dan juga certifications dari CompTIA. Kedua ini menunjukkan permulaan basis ataupun fundamental yang melibatkan digital dan juga AI, dan keduanya sisi sertifikasi di mana punya 3 infrastruktur IT, cybersecurity dan juga data analytics. Jadi yang terkait dengan AI ini effort ataupun solutions learning dari pihak CompTIA yang bisa majukan program seperti AI fluency titles di mana terdapat AI essential, AI prompting, AI helpdesk, dan juga bagi dari sisi sales dan marketing juga terdapat beberapa yang boleh membantu bisnes anda performing menggunakan tools AI dan juga kefahaman tentang how to project profiling the customer and so on. On the other hand juga, kalau dilihatkan dari sisi sertifikasinya tadi, saya sarankan sini melihat kembali dari topik kita hari ini ya, cybersecurity dan AI, kita punya penyediaan buat program cybersecurity seperti CompTIA Security Plus. Kalau buat tim defense-nya, CISA Plus. Buat tim offense-nya, Pentest Plus. Langsung maju kalau punya tambahan yang mahu ekspansi kepada AI, seperti pertanyaan dari Firman tadi, daripada pihak akademik juga ya, kita boleh melihatkan penambahan CompTIA Security Plus. Dan juga tidak ketinggalan ya belajarnya data, kefahaman data breach, data security, di mana tadi sekali kita punya program data AI. 3 ini memampatkan pemahaman penyediaan tools AI. Ini saran saya juga ya dari satu journey ya buat mereka dari enterprise, government, academic. Permulaannya lihat dari sisi foundation dan juga essentials ya, program-program yang bisa kita lihat bantu digital literacy. Keduanya itu lihat dari sisi digital skills ya, itu untuk mereka yang di luar IT ataupun adjacent di dalam IT, ada gabungan belajarnya cloud, belajar data analysis, jadi punya gabung sama AI essentials. Yang ketiga itu saya katakan tadi 3 dan 4, mereka yang bermain sama data dan mereka yang bermain sama cybersecurity. So dua-dua ini kita punya journey ataupun roadmap ya, path di mana terdapat data AI, pengakhiran dan juga security AI yang bisa bantu anda untuk memahami how to secure your data, how to secure your entire network ataupun your devices, your services, bermain dengan AI kerana attack itu datang dari AI, harus dilawan sama AI. So, embrace with AI, dan kalau saya lihatkan dari sisi role-based skills, ini currently contohnya saya lihatkan government role atau enterprise role ataupun mereka yang di sisi tech nasional ya. Saya rekomendasi melihatkan salah satu contoh yang ada di sisi role-nya itu, apa recommendation path atau program yang ada dan apa outcome yang kita bisa dapat bila belajarnya sertifikasi ataupun competency certificate ataupun essential dari CompTIA. So, saya jadi tidak go in detail, but then ini antara rekomendasi, contohnya helpdesk, belajarnya AI CompTIA Plus, belajarnya AI essential dan juga AI helpdesk. Kalau lihat dari sisi mereka yang belajar untuk bikin job role IT security officer ya, melihatkan mungkin gabungannya udah technical ya, security dan juga CompTIA security AI. Ini bisa mendapat outcome seperti securing AI deployment dan monitoring. Nah, jadi untuk keseluruhan ini terus mulain assess untuk mappingnya. Kemudian dia harus lihat ya dari sisi karyawannya, dari sisi keperluan skillsnya, kemudian train dan ensure setiap pelatihan itu ada yang tersertify untuk validasi ya skills yang sedia ada. Dan terakhir sekali untuk membangunkan timnya ya, mungkin ini bisa bantu untuk setiap aktiviti yang certified. Ini kita menambahkan lagi keperluan lain dari sisi training dan lain-lainnya. So itu buat dari CompTIA, and then why CompTIA are able to help you, why CompTIA are able to be part of the solution tentang upskilling dari skilling dan kompetensi yang diperlukan. Kerana ini kita memang kerjasama, komplement, tidak ada lock-in ya, iaitu as a vendor neutral certification provider. Intinya CompTIA freedom on multiple platform, tidak terkait hanya satu platform ataupun atau services ataupun device. And then melihat ini CompTIA itu sudah membantu solusi lebih dari 4 juta pengguna sertifikasi dan 10 juta yang professional certified, dan satu-satunya 1 jutanya datangnya dari Security Plus saja. And then sudah berbasis presented di almost seluruh pelosok dunia ya. And all in all kita melihatkan ini bantu banget baik dari tim, departmental ataupun individual ya, untuk mendapatkan the better jobs performance. Nah, jadi saran saya kalau tidak dilakukan secara mass, malah bisa lihat secara individual training, diagnose apa skillsnya, dan ataupun secara dibuat secara pilot. Mulain dulu, belajar dulu, kemudian tersertifikasi. So, I think itu saran saya penambahan tentang untuk akselerasikan cybersecurity dan AI di Indonesia. So yeah, that is some of the sharing penambahan dari apa yang Pak James sharingkan dan juga apa yang tertanya dari sisi komunitas Aptiknas membershipnya di Indonesia. Sekian dari saya, Pak.
Oke, thank you Pak Heril. Jadi teman-teman pasti sudah jelas semua ya apa yang tadi disampaikan. Tapi kita ada program ya, jadi teman-teman nanti bisa lihat di chat atau nanti juga bisa kontak ke Aptiknas ya buat teman-teman yang mungkin masuk lewat community ya. Jadi mungkin belum masuk ke portal untuk registrasi ya. Jadi kami sudah sampaikan di kolom chat untuk bisa ikut program CompTIA dengan Aptiknas, itu bisa langsung join. Okay, good. I think the time is up, James. We very happy to hear the insights and everything you just share with us, and I hope you have a good time in Melbourne now.
Thank you very
Hopefully,
much.
yeah, hopefully you will come to Indonesia again, and we can have a short discussion, more detail about this, and very interesting topic. Yeah.
You bet. I'm glad you
Today, yeah.
invited me. Hyrule has said no, James can't come. No, just kidding. So Frankie, if you want us there, we're gonna go, right, Hyrule? I'm ready.
Okay. I think we will have the session, yeah, Pak Hairil, yeah, the on-site session later on. I think in the next few months, yeah. Hopefully, the CompTIA can come to Indonesia, yeah.
I'm ready. That's great.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So, jadi teman-teman itu sesi kita sore ini. Sebelum kita closing, I will ask you some closing remark, but after the photo session, ya. Jadi silakan teman-teman buka kameranya. Kita mau foto session bersama dahulu. Kita akan foto bersama dengan James, Stanger, dan Mr. Hairil. Jadi silakan buka kameranya, Norma, bantu capture fotonya kita ya.
Ya, Pak.
Silakan buka kameranya. Coba, ya ini is a daylight ya. Oke. Ya, ini teman-teman semua silakan buka kameranya. Kita mau foto sesi dulu. Ini tidak hanya dari Aptiknas, ini jadi banyak juga teman-teman dari community yang terkait dengan Aptiknas. Pada siang kali ini, terima kasih semua teman-teman. Tadi sudah dibagikan di grup chat ya. Silakan join untuk bisa ngikutin atau mendapat special price CompTIA ya, certification ya. Udah, Mak, silakan Mak.
Oke, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, sebentar. Ya, sudah Pak Paki.
Okay, James, your turn to closing remark.
My turn to what?
The closing remark.
The
closing remark.
I'm sorry, my hearing is terrible. Closing remarks. The one thing I just want to say to everybody, keep on learning. That's, to me, the most important thing that you can do. Don't let anything take away your God-given right to keep learning. That's the most thing that's going to keep you valuable and keep you happy in your life. So take care. Thank you.
Again, thank you so much, James Stanger from the CompTIA, Pak Hairil, for your sharing and insight to us today. Hopefully we can meet you directly in person in Jakarta ya. Jadi teman-teman itu sesi kita pada sore kali ini. Terima kasih sekali CompTIA, terima kasih sekali teman-teman. Kita bisa selesaikan sesi pada sore kali ini. Jadi jangan lupa ya, kita masih banyak kegiatan di Aptiknas. Silakan teman-teman bisa ikuti kegiatan kita selanjutnya. Kita juga masih ada sesi webinar besok ya, tiap Kamis kita ada sesi webinar. Silakan join dan juga next week juga masih ada ya. Buat teman-teman yang mau ikutan program TIA sudah ada di chat box. Silakan join ya programnya. Kita bisa dapatkan harga khusus, harga Aptiknas ataupun harga mitra Aptiknas. Once again, thank you James, thank you Pak Heril. Terima kasih teman-teman semua. Sampai bertemu kembali di kegiatan selanjutnya ya. Thank you,
Terima
thank you
kasih
all.
ya. Thank you James, thank you Pak Frankie
Take care,
and
everyone.
team.
Thank you
Terima
semua.
kasih.
Terima kasih.
Bye.